night, I may watch you go. There'll be no value in the strength of walls that I have grown. There'll be no comfort in the shade of the shadow's throne. But I'd be yours if you'd be mine. Stretch out my life and pick the seams out. Take what you like, but close my ears and eyes. Watch me stumble over and over. I had done wrong. You built your tower, but call me home, and I will build a throne and wash my eyes out never again. But love the one you hold, and I'll be your gold, to have and to hold, the lover of the light, with skin too tight and eyes like marbles who spin me high. So watch me as I glide before I tumble homeward, homeward. I know I've tried. I was not stable and floored by pride. I miss my sanguine eyes. So hold my hands up, breathe in and breathe out. So love the one you hold, and I'll be your gold, to have and to hold, a lover of the light. And in the middle of the night, I may watch you go. There'll be no value in the strength of walls that I have grown. There'll be no comfort in the shade of the shadow's throne. You may not trust the promises of the change I'll show.
Okay, so I'll do your room hosting.
Okay.
I'm gonna do pictures. I mean, we'll do pictures in a little bit. Do you want to do questions?
We were just talking about that. Do you want to do during? Or?
It's fine. Yeah, if people have questions, they can do that.
Okay.
I think we're live. We're hot.
We're coming in hot.
We're coming in hot.
Hi,
It's
Lisa.
a
How are
hot
you?
mic, like the NFL TikTok skits.
Am I good to go?
All right, welcome everyone to our session. We're excited to be here with you today. Hope everyone is enjoying the conference. We had a conversation yesterday. We had a roundtable, executive roundtable, and we're talking about what are some of the most pressing things within staffing as we look across the staffing industry. And what kept coming up was AI, finding efficiencies, and being able to optimize and really change the game across. And there's a lot of efficiencies to be had, not only just in recruitment marketing, but across the board. Let me introduce the panel to you. First and foremost, we have next to me on the very end here is KJ. He is our founder and CEO of Jovio. KJ has been solving problems that bring efficiency in recruiting teams to delight, and then also to candidates as well. Jovio is the modern age acronym for a job for everyone. And we know there's a job for everyone in the world, and that is our mission, to make sure that that job finds them. Erin Bogdanovich, she leads all innovation practices at LHH. She's doing some wonderful things in AI with partners like Salesforce, Microsoft, and Jovio, building our AI agents and executing on a digital playbook. And I'm Jennifer Smith. I have been in the staffing industry for over 20 years, MSP, RPO, and staffing. My last stint was at Kelly as their Chief Recruiting Officer, and then I was at AMN prior to that running their RPO division. KJ.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming over here. Really appreciate you guys giving your time. When we started this off and we were debating, how do we start this, right? And the idea was recruitment marketing is broken. I was like, that's too vague and it's so abused. Everybody's saying that. Let's be specific. And we came back to our own model that we started out a long time back, that I wish there was a world where we can have 4, 3, 2, 1. Could there be a day when 4 clicks could lead to 3 applies to 1 shortlist, 2 shortlist and 1 hire, right? So now why is it not happening like that? There's a right job for everyone, right? So why are we not putting the right job and converting that person to an ultimate placement? It's because the entire journey is inefficient. And we saw this as a supply chain problem. And what I mean by inefficient is the inefficiencies every single step of the way. Right from the time you first decide to source a candidate. You can source a candidate in-house or from advertising on different mediums, social, search, job boards. And you would be aghast to know that 50% plus of all your dollars that are getting spent over there is never seeing the light of the day. There are hidden markups at every single step of the way. There is no transparency in the ecosystem. There is so much more bad candidate experience that is going out there that even the right person doesn't want to click on a job throughout the process. Then there are conversion efficiencies, right? Almost we saw across all our clients, and staffing is a lot more advanced in that as an industry, but staffing has about 60 to 70% drop-offs, but enterprise customers have 93% drop-offs. That means people who want to apply to a job, 93% never see the light of the day at the end, never end up applying to that job. And then at the bottom of it is where we do the worst job, recruiter inefficiencies. We have the same number of recruiters and sources, but AI-driven applications have become 10x. And these are all real applications. This is AI writing applications. I know about a company that raised $1 billion recently that is letting people apply to 100 jobs a day, 200 jobs a day for subscription. And these are all real people, but AI is doing that for them. So now you have the same team who have a lot of quantity, little quality. They can't even know which candidate they have to process first, who's real versus non-real. So we came to a conclusion that, we cannot at any point of time solve it the way we have solved. We have got to get this right. AI is a lot of benefit to everybody, but it's also going to become a lot of pain. And if we continue to do what we did all the time that we have done in the past, we are not going to solve it. And I was thinking about an example of how this world is changing right under our feet. 3 million years back, there was an ice age. There were a whole lot of species, 90% plus of what existed on the earth got wiped out. And the one who adapted survived. 30 years ago, a similar time came into the world when search came into our life. And people went on to the internet bandwagon, right? And we all adapted internet. We use it in our day-to-day lives. And here we are. I think the same moment is coming today. 30 years later, AI is coming in. The world future is going to be looked at as haves and have-nots. This is the new way of doing it. We cannot surmount the challenge of inefficiencies doing the way we have done. We have to not think of incremental gains, but groundbreaking shift in how we think about what we do. And the current technology and tools provide us the option to do that.
Right. So we've been through a lot of different AIs. Just when we thought it was over, there is more AI that is being created than ever. So when you think about predictive AI, that is based on your historical data, right? That's where your analytics come in. You're able to see maybe what your potential time to fill would be, your candidate experience, being able to find the right candidate based on past and historic data. When you look at generative AI, I think about DALL-E. I love to create different graphics out there. You plug it in, it learns from what you're telling it to learn. You keep honing it in, and then it brings up this beautiful picture, right? In the world of jobs, that could be a job description that you have across. Being able to say, I want to look at, or I want to hire someone for, it could be a lid job, it could be a nurse, no matter what it is. And being able to write that job description from scratch, that is also SEO optimized across it. And then you look at agentic AI. It makes predictive and generative work together, and it creates a whole new level of AI where it's learning and it's continuing to learn, and it's actually task-based. So when you relate it to the recruiting process, it's going from that front of the funnel, AI, when you're pushing out your jobs, it's running behind it, you're able to find the right candidates at the right time, in the right place, you're helping reduce your media spend and waste. And then the second piece of that is being able to go through the entire process without an action having to be taken. So this is truly an efficiency AI that's able to learn as you continue through that cycle and life cycle of recruiting. So it's really changing the game today as we think about it. So there is a seismic shift happening. So there's a foresight that's been given. So we did a study at Jovio, and 65% think that candidates will not want to talk to a person. They'd rather talk to a bot or something that is an AI-driven platform, which tells us that the candidate experience is changing. It's changing in a way that maybe we like it or maybe we don't. But when you think about the need for the right data, right time, at speed, that is where this is coming in, and thinking about that candidate experience is really important. 55% are investing more in automated recruiting and solutions that use AI. What that says and speaks volume is investment is happening. People are getting on the bus, they're getting on board with AI, and making sure that you have the right solutions integrated in the right way that are going to find your efficiency, not cripple the system, are more and more apparent. And 76% believe that they will be left behind by their peers. When you think about the legacy staffing business, it's built on some really old systems. And pulling out those old systems and plugging in AI has been pretty difficult. So it's caused a lot of people to look at their platforms and say, where can we really find efficiency? What does that look like across? And how do we automate this process? And what it does is it will change the recruiter's desk. The recruiters become able to, once again, we reminisced 10 years ago, think about the staffing industry and what that looked like. It was a beautiful thing. If y'all remember, right? It was so beautiful. But then you look at today and what's happening, that speed, the candidate experience, and recruiters not being able to spend time with candidates, it'll give them time back. So now you can focus on strategy, you can focus on your talent and be able to have real conversations versus just that quick screening. Candidate and recruiter expectations are definitely shifting as we look across the landscape of staffing and recruiting. So Erin, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think this is one thing that we're really focused on at the Adecco Group, which LHH is a part of the Adecco Group. We're the professional recruitment brand. And we're really focused on how can we actually make our candidates happier, provide a better candidate experience, and at the same time alleviate some of the day-to-day pain that our recruiters are facing. And so, you know, going back to your stat on the last slide, it said 65% of HR leaders think that people be preferring to speak with an agent. You know, a couple weeks ago, we were in a meeting at Bullhorn, and they had a similar survey. They do their own research, and they're targeting staffing candidates, and so even more staffing candidates than that 65% through their research found that if an agent or a chatbot can lead to a faster and more qualified job being presented to them, meaning like they can start work the next week or the next day, they want to do that. They want to have the most qualified job presented to them as soon as possible. That's their number one thing. And if that's through an agent, then even better. And so, you know, we're thinking about that candidate delight. I mean, but these agents have to be conversational. They can't be a prompt-based chatbot where you're select the best option, and then it looks like a chatbot, and it's just really like a tree-based automation that you're going through. That's not what they want. I mean, that's like when you call a call center and you're like just begging to press 0 to get to an operator. Those non-relevant chatbots where you're just going through prompts is a similar experience in our candidate eyes. And so really about that like agentic AI, taking the conversation, using past data points that we have to provide that conversational experience. But at the same time, like our recruiters are busier than ever, but the KPIs are different today. And so if we look at, the efficiencies that we had, we had a little bit of a joke at our roundtable yesterday. It was nothing for a recruiter 10, 15 years ago to produce 20 interviews a week. Our recruiters are just as busy today, but they're not doing that. And it's because there's so much else going on. And so are there things that we can automate off their desk so that way they can get back to the interviews? Because if you're a recruiter, that's what you love to do. You love to talk to candidates and you love to match candidates to jobs. But if you're not able to do that because you're bogged down with administrative tasks, that's where I want to focus agents and AI, right? That's where I want to hone in on what can I free up on their desk to make them more successful so they can talk to more people. And all of those administrative tasks, and I use the word administrative lightly, I mean, they're not just like admin tasks, but they're distractions from the fulfillment of a job. That is causing them to be burnt out. That is causing them not to win as often as they were a few years ago because they're not talking to as many candidates, they're not talking to as many clients, and they're not getting as many wins because they're not doing as many things that they like to do. And really, it comes down to using AI. It's not volume. I'm not saying anyone should get back to 20 interviews a week just because that's what we did when we started, 15 years ago. It's about the quality of the interviews, having a higher success rate and using AI to be able to do that. And so if I can get closer to the bullseye with every outreach that I'm doing because of AI, sign me up. Let me do that. I want to win more. I want to have a higher success rate. And of course, what we're finding is that we have to keep evolving. We can't just launch a product and call it good. I mean, the speed of which innovation is happening and the speed of which AI is impacting that, I mean, my job is never done. So plenty of work for me to be doing, so to stay ahead of that.
The interesting thing, the way I would say it is, if you don't keep on moving ahead, you will fall back. It's like you're climbing up a mountain. So you have to keep on continuing to innovate. And one of the points I wanted to make here is what quality, right? Our platform, we have millions of jobs and millions of job seekers. And we are seeing which job seeker is applying to which job. And when we look at the data, we realize, and we're like really frustrated that why are these people applying to these jobs? They're not the right match. They're not going to get hired in that job. 70% of people have applied to the wrong job when there was a right job available for them. And this is a match problem. This is a search problem. So can an agent point them to the right job? Quality starts there and right to the point where the outcomes are higher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, constantly innovating, but I think a lot of us might also be in a little bit of analysis paralysis on AI and afraid to make that first decision and that first stepping point. And if we don't start moving on some of these things, we're not only going to fall behind, but we're going to remain behind. It will be impossible to catch up. And so I think, even me personally, I experience a little bit of like, well, what's the next best thing? Is that coming in 30 days? Is that coming in 3 months? Is that coming in 3 years? And we just don't know. But what we do know is if we have to make some decisions and we have to get started on something, so piloting some sort of streamlining of processes through AI is a given. So.
Yeah, when I think about the market share and what I've seen in staffing over the last few years, it probably starts pre-COVID. When you think about everything that happened, I think about technology in two different ways. You can either get to sustainable innovation or disruptive innovation. And what does that look like for your organization? So to me, sustainable innovation is being able to pull out some of those archaic systems that were built back in the day that now are being bolted onto, that once new technology continues to evolve will be harder and harder to update. So making sure that you're able to, as you look at innovation and getting to be disruptive, you're able to evolve with that. We all know the Blockbuster Netflix story. I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone in this room, but this is a legacy business compared to disruptive innovation. So when Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, hey, we have this new model, do you want to buy it? It was $50 million was the price tag on it. Today, in this moment, It is worth $370.73 billion. When we think about our industry as a whole, from a staffing industry, and the platforms that are coming up, we've seen the gig platforms that are becoming popular, being on-demand based businesses, there is so much overload with technology. You can solve and boil the entire ocean, but if you can look at your technology stack and solve one problem to bring yourself to that sustainable innovation, what would that be, and what does that look like? And that's how you start, and that's where you start. So companies are betting big. So we just talked a little bit about how do you get there. Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, all of them are putting AI at the forefront and building their models around them. So when you look at Copilot, that's your coworker. You hang out with Copilot all day, right? What are we doing together today, Copilot? And that's Microsoft's model. When you look at Google betting on Gemini, it goes across all different medias and platforms, and it's able to do different things in those spaces. I have it take notes for me all the time. It's so great. I still go to my notepad from time to time, but I love Gemini note-taking. It summarizes my meetings. It's beautiful, and off I go, because I never go back to those notepads that I had or I've had for years. And then Salesforce, when you look at Agentforce, it is really changing the game and putting a powerhouse around how deals are closed in the sales cycle. You want to talk a little bit about your experience and how you've accelerated with AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Adecco Group, we're very, very proud of our partnerships that we have with not only Salesforce, but we have great partnerships, obviously, with all of our vendors, JobBoards and Joveo, but we also are all in on AI with Salesforce and Microsoft specifically. And so, we took this idea of what does it look like to have like a 24/7 recruiter available to candidates that are constantly applying to jobs. And so, we have 300 million new candidates entering our database globally, not just here in the US, obviously that would be amazing if we did, but globally. But these candidates are requiring a level of touching that they want it immediately. And there is absolutely not enough staff in the world that could possibly respond to all of these applies, right? And so when we think about, hey, Salesforce, create us a +1 recruiter that can assist all of our actual recruiters, because we're not looking to reduce our headcount, we just want to increase productivity, but we want to provide them their coworker, right? We want to add an assistant to their desk, and so they have this 24/7 recruiter that's actually an agent, and what that agent is doing is it's interacting with and providing candidate engagement. And I'm sure we're not alone in this. I'm sure everyone that has some sort of NPS survey that comes across their desk, the engagement piece and the follow-up is where some of the biggest opportunities lie. And so the agent we have is, focused on engaging with candidates, also providing those candidates onto a short list for our recruiters, again, the search and match piece, and serving up a call plan. And so if we're looking at, if I'm a recruiter coming into work in the morning, I would love a call plan. Even better, I would love to have some interviews already on my calendar that I didn't have to schedule, but these are kind of a work in progress. And so, we've just started on this. If you think about Salesforce and Agentforce and where this is all leading, the top of the funnel candidate marketing activities is definitely one of our biggest opportunities, and it's all new to us. It's one of those things that we're committed to investing in and exploring further, because we do think there's a lot of efficiencies for all of our recruiters across the globe to focus on this. So, yeah. And so really, when we think about AI in the staffing space and where we're at today, the common thread is, we're all looking to get a little bit of an edge in our business. Especially over the last couple of years where it's no secret that it's been a little tough, and so we want to have some wins, right? And so can AI help us with that? Absolutely. And so, we're looking at AI from a perspective of, can it help us reach global talent? Can it help us focus on quality? Because we all want to be able to pinpoint, if we can only make 10 calls a day, we want those 10 calls to be very, very fruitful. Hopefully we're all making more than 10, but that's just an example. We also want to use AI from an automated job ads perspective. Posting a job this day and age should not take our recruiters' time. That is something that they should not have to do. They should not have to rewrite a job order from a client to get it posted onto the website. It's just, why? Why are we still doing this? But I don't know the why, but we'll figure it out. And then, of course, automating some of those workflows and optimization. But all of this really stems on insights on how successful this is being, so that way we can make improvements along the way. And so agents aren't foolproof. We have to teach them. We have to, a lot of it's machine learning in the background, and so we really have to focus on being okay with of not hitting it out of the park the first time. There are going to be learnings and not failures, but opportunities along the way. So.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And so, going back to imagine a world, right? Well, my goal and what I'm doing at LHH is I want this to be next year when we're all in Austin. I do want to get to a place where we only need 4 clicks on a job ad to get 3 applies. But I want those 3 applies to be the right candidate. So what are we doing in the background to make sure that our job ads are actually hitting the right people at the right time when they're ready to actually move into a new job, right? And so turning those 4 clicks on our job ads, we want those job ads to be served up to the right candidate at the right time on the right platform. We want those to turn into qualified applicants. And our recruiters they should walk in and have a short list in front of them of people that are ready to pick up the phone, answer their call, and go to work the next day. And so having that short list in our placement, if we can streamline that process with the aid of AI, we're already gaining and we're already winning. And that's what I'm focused on, so I hope to have some success stories for you guys next year on that. And so going into, how me personally ended up here today with some of our use cases that we've been focused on. It's not something that, even though agentic AI just came into the conversation in the last 6 months, we have been focused on automation and what can we do to gain efficiencies every step of the way for the last few years. And I see Lori in the background, and that was her task that she gave me a couple years ago, saying, we got to find efficiencies, we got to find automations. And so, before 2 years ago, much like many of you in this room, we probably weren't focused on data freshness in our ATS. And so we were really reliant on recruiters to document. And we still are, but what can we do from an AI perspective to help that, or from an automation perspective to help that? And not only just maintaining freshness in our database, but do we even have the right candidates in the database? So the quality candidates in our database, and is the information that we have on them relevant and recent? And so that's been our mission for the last 2 years. I think we even used the word in the beginning, hygiene, which is a very unsexy word, and we quickly put a stop to that. And so it was no longer data hygiene, it was data freshness. And so, but without data, we weren't able to add on every step of the way to get where we're at today. And so with that data freshness, we can and we do have automated outreach to these candidates. It's not quite AI-based yet, but we are doing automated outreach continuously on behalf of our recruiters. We're going to get to the AI element very, very quickly. Where we are using AI is on that matching piece. And so we do have auto match in place. We are looking to be screening candidates and having those candidates, again, show up on a recruiter's calendar, qualified candidates on a calendar the next day, so that way they can start interviewing with a recruiter about their dream job. And so we presented this over to Jovio, and they've been our partner along the way and helped us in a lot of these solutions over the course of the last couple of years. And so where we're really focused at, I think this is, traditional staffing. When I, first started in recruiting, again, we were writing manual job postings. We still are in a lot of cases. But what would it look like if we were actually just, entering into an environment and congratulating a salesperson or a recruiter on their new job order that they just entered into the system? You get a little pop-up with some balloons. Congratulations on your new order. Would you like to post it? Here's the job posting I wrote for you. That takes away the client information, makes it actually appealing to a candidate, because we all know the job orders that we get, what the client gives us is not what the candidate wants to see on the internet. And so how do you actually rewrite that, right? And so having that job posting and the advertiser in place. But then also, we talked about the chatbot and the campaign manager. Really getting down to, are we posting our jobs at the right place? Do we have the right posting? Are we posting it in the right place for the right candidate? Are we engaging them in an authentic way where it's not a rules-based chatbot, but are we doing our first outreach knowing that they want to talk to an agent or a chatbot because they want immediate response? Think about it. Even now, if we're Googling everything, and if we don't get an instant response, that's very frustrating. And, I have a 6-year-old, and I can only imagine his world when he's job seeking or when he wants to do anything. He's not going to know how to wait. His patience is not going to be the same as ours, and so they want that chatbot, that they want that immediate response, and they want that communication. And so, just thinking about how in all areas and facets of our life that really takes a place. So, and then using AI for having a personalized landing page, for that candidate, serving up jobs that they didn't apply to but might be interested in based on what we know about those candidates. And of course, at the crux of all of this, we have to have the analysis to show us that we're on the right track.
So when you look at that, it was so hard for me not to sing a whole new world. But when you look at your AI tech stack and coming across it, right? And your conversational AI chatbot, it is not something that we used back in the day where it was the decision tree. It is a conversation. The AI understands that. They're able to engage with a candidate. When Erin was just talking about her 6-year-old, I'm thinking about my 26-year-old that kind of expected a job to come to him versus going out and looking for him. Like, no, this is what you do and this is how you have to do it. I'm in staffing. I've done this for many, many years. So they expect jobs to also come to them. So when you think about being able to, one, have a career site that's able to optimize itself and engage candidates as they land on your page, and then you look at your job advertiser that is finding those candidates where they live, work, and play, ideally the job does come to them, right? We're just not necessarily there yet in some places, or people haven't implemented that technology. It exists. We have the technology that exists to be able to serve up that job in front of someone that's really interested and engaged. And then you have your AI campaign manager. I will not ask anyone in this room what your redeployment rate is, but I know it's really low. Whether it's a candidate sitting in your database or it's someone that you put on assignment and spent all of that money getting them to assignment, now they're getting ready to come off. What is your redeployment rate? Right? Being able to create within a system and match the talent, one, that you've already spent dollars on to recruit, and then two, if you've gotten them all the way to a client, in working, being able to redeploy them to be able to save your cost. And then bringing it all back in this beautiful bowl with analytics and talent and really understanding the data. A big piece of the data is just making sure that you truly understand it. So you can have data as real time as you want, but being able to digest that back and say, why is AI making these same decisions or making these decisions for me is a critical piece as you look across your platform.
I think this may look very overwhelming. I don't know where to start from, right? And this is scary, right? There's so much to do and where to start, but let me make it even worse, right? When you put something out in the world, it stays in the world for everybody to use. The moment you put anything on a chat GPT or any of the generative platforms or any of the large learning platforms, everybody else in the world, even your competitors, can search on it. If you put your IP into it, they have access to it. Once what I did is I just wrote a query about a company to see their financials, which was not in public, but someone in that company put those financials to do some analysis. I had those financials. I could get that analytics. So when you think of these things, ask yourself, do you have compliance? Do you have guardrails? There are tools out there that you also need to think about, that if I put something out there, it's restricted. It's only for your use case. It only takes it in. Same thing, right? If your job seeker is going on a page, a landing page or a microsite and searching for jobs, that AI should not hallucinate. It should not answer questions they're not supposed to answer. It should be restricted to the content on your career site. Now you start thinking about guardrails, you have to start thinking it deeply. So it's important to pick your battles. Pick one thing at a time. There's so much out there. It may seem very, very difficult. Pick one thing, get it right, move on to the next thing. By the end of the year, you realize that you've got 3 or 4 things out of the way. And then you look back and say, wow, I was successful. If you try to do everything at the same time, you're going to miss something. So, and we have seen that happening. I asked my team to write a media plan. They took about 3 to 4 days. It was in a foreign country, a country nobody, we are talking about Denmark, where you want to talk about mathematician and coders. Really, there's no data in the world that can give you the answer. There's very limited data out there. So I asked my team to come back to me. 5 days later, they came back to me with something. Now, when I asked them that question, I myself wrote a query in ChatGPT and give me a media plan for Denmark for mathematician coders. And I was more than happy to show it to you, but it was so perfect, it was better than what my team got me. Right there is an example that it is a game changer. But if you put your own data into it, then others can use to get your media plan. So think of it like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're making sure that you have the right guardrails, especially since we're dealing with a lot of, personal information with our candidates. I mean, especially is just making sure that, that might be why it's slow to move forward sometimes, but having those strategic partners that can help you with that along the way is great. So, but yeah, having ChatGPT is it's a blessing and a curse sometimes if people use the wrong one.
Yeah.
So.
Make sure you have firewalls in that.
Yeah.
There'll be another acronym. I don't think they've come out with one for AI. So we have OFCCP, we have TCPA. They love throwing acronyms at us. So we'll see what comes out with the compliance against AI. So when you look at your real-time AI insights, having complete visibility, and just imagine that, right? You usually have one specific data point, and then getting and drilling down to that data point is very messy, at the very least, or you have to go through a lot to get to that end result. But being able to measure from the front of your funnel who's coming in, and there's a lot of, I'll call it noise in the market today. There are people who are applying to jobs just because they just want to get a job and they don't care which one it is. So we're seeing systems being saturated. So really making sure that you have an effective plan to be able to target the right candidates, serve it up in front of them, so those are the candidates applying to the jobs become really important. And then also imagine on top of that, you can see the engagement on your job and what it looks like. And then alongside of that, as you look at how you've optimized it and how you've been able to truly target the candidates. So whether it's making sure that job description is SEO optimized as it pushes out, so it's getting to the right candidates, it understands the language and prompts, all the way to you reduced your time to fill or time to hire, or your candidate time to submit, because now you're getting the right candidates in the system to be able to fill the job. Just want to add anything onto that?
I think the only thing I would say is if you invest in AI, and whatever results AI is giving it to you, right, the insights it's giving it to you, have the AI explain why it took that decision. Don't invest in AI platforms that cannot explain themselves, because there is a logic behind everything that's being done. So there has to be proof. What I'm trying to say is AI is like an agent. Do you want it a free agent that works for everybody, or do you want an agent for yourself? And the agent works for you, you would expect an answer. Just like if you're asking a recruiter, why did you take that decision? The recruiter would explain that. You think of it like that. It should be an explainable AI, not just a basic AI that just is a magic wand. Let's not go with that.
This is one of the reasons why I'm at Jovio today. This was so exciting to me. For years, I have loved, I'll call it MZ, it's Lightcast now. I've loved Talent Neuron, all the data that's inside of there. And all that I've ever wanted and wished for in my life, as I talk to every single person who has built the behind the scenes, whether you're on Power BI, you're on the web service, whatever that looks like for your analytics, I want to be able to see the job, what's happening with that job, what's happening with candidates within there, and then what does my external market look like? Bring me back that data so I can really understand and have an intelligent conversation with the hiring manager. So if we're looking for maybe that there's a goal from a target candidate perspective, I'm able to see that and I'm able to back into it, and then I can explain that within the marketplace to say, this is what we're seeing with competitors, this is what they're doing. We even have a really cool function and feature that you're able to see based on the advertising of competitors, what they're offering someone else. So then you can go back and say, these are the things that are hot in the market right now for these jobs. You might want to consider, if you can, within your process, being able to add this benefit, whatever that might look like. Or there's a signing bonus that your competitors are offering that you're not. Is there anything with this that KJ you want to add?
No,
Jack, to that?
no.
This, to
Know
me-
thy competitor.
Yeah, I was so excited. I wanted to pace as I was going through the slide because it's the coolest thing and it's what I've been asking for a really long time and being able to see it. So bringing it all together and putting us into a real life case, Erin? take us home.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the Adecco Group, again, we've been partnering with Jovio for a few years now. I personally have been involved with Jovio the last 2 years when I started managing our platforms and our job board vendors and our sales tools. And so, I had a really great conversation a couple years ago around some of the problems that I personally was trying to solve for and the challenges that I was facing. And they were the same challenges that the Adecco Group globally were trying to face, which is like, how do we stretch the budget that we have? I mean, all of us in this room are faced with a very, flat budget right now for job board spend. but at the same time, our partners are increasing their prices exponentially. And so, you know, I still have a responsibility in my role to produce quality candidates that are going to fill jobs and not necessarily through a higher budget. And so I needed to be really creative on how we did that. And so making sure that our jobs were distributed to the right boards at the right time is really where programmatic and using some of the AI tools came into play. And so, you know, we weren't in a position, much like many of you in this room, probably to increase your spend. I mean, you know, the last couple of years have been a little tough in the staffing space, and so, you know, we had to make do with the budget, but at the same time, you know, again, our partners were raising their costs, you know, as they should. So, but we're, you know, again, focused the same amount of spend, but this also higher returns. And so, you know, before we were in a very limited space of actually knowing where our ROI on job board spend was even coming from. So what job boards were the most fruitful for our different practice areas. And so at LHH, again, professional recruitment, we do accounting and finance, we do legal and a handful of other practice areas, but those are, you know, accounting, finance, legal are our two biggest practice areas. Those are two completely different job seekers, and where they go and look for jobs should be completely different. But our strategy was that every job goes to every job board because that's how our agreements and our integrations were set up. And now we're taking a step back from that and unbundling that strategy, and it's been a work in progress, but our legal jobs should go to where legal people look for jobs. Our accounting and finance jobs should go to where accounting and finance professionals in that market, even one step further, how an accounting and finance professional in Chicago, where they look for a job, is different than an accounting and finance professional in Los Angeles. They're going to go to different job boards because that's how their market performs, right? And so stepping in and being able to spend the same amount of money or less year over year on our job board spend, but still be able to return high quality candidates for our recruiters to outreach to was super important to us. And so one of the challenges, you know, as far as ROI and efficiency. And so optimizing our bidding process on these job boards too is, you know, part of reaching the right candidate at the right time is around how is our job performing against our competitors or even against in-house recruiters that are posting their jobs to the job board. So how do we remain competitive? How do we not overspend per job and just put the same budget for every single job that we have, or not enough budget for every single job that we have so we're not competitive, but really using AI to say, you know what, you should spend a little bit more on this senior accountant job in San Antonio, Texas, as opposed to this almost exact same senior accountant job over in Naples, Florida, because the bid optimization and what you need to spend to perform higher in those markets is completely different. Whereas, you know, before we had a blanket strategy on that. And I have a team, but it's a small team, and we are not full-time job board campaign managers. And so we kind of needed a little bit of a fix it and forget it strategy on some of these. And so, you know, that's where, again, we've been able to kind of solve some of these problems together. And the visibility, like I mentioned, you know, a couple years ago, we had a difficult time even being able to get to the right place to say, this is what performs well for this practice area and this job, and this is what performs really well for this practice area over here. And so being able to have those insights and be able to use those insights, gather the data, do the analysis on the data, and use that to really make informed decisions on our strategy going forward. You know, again, you guys have been great partners in that with us for the last couple of years, and so I feel like we're making tremendous progress in that area. So, you know, we've accomplished a lot, but we're going to continue on now that AI is really changing the game again for all of us. So, yeah.
Right. I think we'll open it up for any questions if there's any.
I don't know if there was any in the app. I know that they take live time questions in the app, but yeah. Sure. Oh. Yeah.
I know it was an ideal case, the 4-3-2-1. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
How's that formula work for the customer? Because, you know, the submit to the customer, the interview by the customer, is that all 1-1-1? Are we lucking out that way?
Oh gosh, I wish we were, right? We all have the client that's like, let me see a comparison candidate, right? And that, I mean,
Because that's where we see a lot of the lack of control is in how many submissions the customer's going to look at. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know if your formula accounted for that.
you know, it doesn't, but we're also, at least for me personally, that formula, I mean, we do need more submissions, right? But if we can think about even further up in the funnel, I mean, at least in professional recruitment, we hardly ever place the candidate in the job that they actually applied for. And, you know, that could be slightly different, that we're just getting those 4 candidates. And that could be almost but if we're getting 4 candidates that are qualified, I can place them on job 1, or I can place them on job 2 tomorrow that comes in, or on job 3 the next day. So, yeah.
Yeah, my question was around the AI-driven media buying. I'm not sure if that's what you called it, or advertising. Does the Jovio platform eliminate the need for you to use a programmatic partner for advertising?
Yeah, sure. So let's just first talk about what programmatic is. Programmatic is when it's a program or machine runs it. Now, we were just having a discussion. We said, hey, you have 20 campaigns, and every campaign you want to use 10 sources or publishers. That's 200 publisher campaign combinations. Now you have to change bids on a daily basis, which are hard to fill, easy to fill kind of jobs. It is humanly impossible to do that. Now you add in the mix of different types of distribution partners or you know, publishers. There are performance publishers like Indeed. There is paper posting and slots publishers like LinkedIn and Monster. There are social and search. There's classifieds like Craigslist and all, the whole plethora of that. It is where you need the right programmatic partner to do this, all of it for you, better than a human can. So no, you do not need to replace a programmatic partner, but you want to make sure your programmatic partner gives you transparency to every single click of the real cost, and is able to show you that in times like this, when job boards are increasing the pricing, that they are able to deliver better quality at lower prices. And that should be the proof of the pudding. And what we all say is the technology works. The technology can do better than a human being. So where I'm coming from is Jovio, as a programmatic job distribution platform, does what it does, but that's not the whole thing to actually deliver the best jobs. Could we also figure out in real time, is that the right job description? Is that the right job title? Is that the right commute distance to post a job into? Is it a dumb expansion of jobs by location, or is it by the commute distance when people be traveling? And what time of the day, what day of the week, which job boards to bid at what rate? I think this is a very complex algorithm that should go into it. And if there is drop-offs happening in the process, what are you doing to remove those drop-offs? So a programmatic platform partner should be all encompassing this. So, and I want to ask a question. So, if you were to give one advice, where to start with, right? There are 10 things to do. How do you think about what is the first thing to go after?
I think where I would first go after is that gap in the inefficient activities that aren't client conversations and candidate conversations. What can AI or what can automations improve that is taking up time from our recruiters and our salespeople doing that? So if we think about, an obvious low-hanging fruit is some sort of system and documentation. Nobody wants to do that, and it's taking up a lot of time. So if you can think about how AI and automations can take that off a recruiter's plate, you would have gains immediately. So it's the efficiencies, right? We don't want to lose the human connection in any of this. And so, we do not want to replace people with any sort of AI agent or bot or automation. It's really just finding the efficiencies to make people love their job again.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. I think it's really important to sit in the seat, that recruiter seat, and really swivel chair it to understand what they're truly doing every single day, from what they're marking in the system, what they're having to document, and look at that time study and say, where are we really spending a lot of time, and can we make that more efficient? I think is one of the biggest keys to bringing that time back to the recruiter's desk. I saw a stat, it was on Staffing Hub, I believe, that was 17 hours had been brought back to the desk of the recruiters. I don't think we're there yet. When you think about, sure, if you look at the process from front to back, can you find 17 hours on the desk? Likely, very likely. But if you can start to look at one optimization at a time and start with this can save, you know, an hour a time a week or 2 hours a time, you're on the right track to getting started.
So on the conversion, when I think about this, I think about conversion rates, right? So typical recruiter desk looks like a pre-screen getting into a client summit, or maybe an internal summit, client summit. Am I not loud enough? Okay. Are you seeing increase in that conversion rate? Because I didn't really see that data up there. I saw sort of a 25% increase or decrease in whatever it was, efficiency improvement.
Yeah.
But when I think about sort of the interactions that the sales team and the recruiting team goes through on a day-to-day basis, it's how do we convert more? Whether it's more conversations with clients converting into job requisitions, or more conversations or pre-screens with candidates converting into actual client submits. And it sounds like that's the goal here, right? With sort of the preemptive saying, okay, we're really qualifying the candidates. But are you measuring that? Have you seen, because you said you've been working with them
Yeah,
for
I mean,
like
we
2
are
years.
measuring that, absolutely. I think, you know, we have to have true success measures on ROI into, you know, whether it's Microsoft Copilot or a Salesforce agent. We're still early stages. I mean, we've had Copilot, you know, we just started early last year with Copilot, and it really just rolled out to our entire user base at the second half of last year. So we're still very early stages. But I would say early numbers show very high levels of adoption and success on this. And so is it sustainable, or is it, you know, how sustainable is it? We'll see. I mean, that's what we're measuring. But I think early, all signs are promising right now. It's just, this is so new to everybody in this room, not just to the Adecco group, but everyone is, you know, to actually say these are our results. It looks very promising, but I can't like give you a number quite yet. But if we can squeeze out an extra hour of productivity from each person, I mean, that is going to have significant impact over time. Small gains to large gains. So.
Well, thank you guys very much. We are out of time for questions, but you can, I'm sure they'll stay and you can answer any questions that you have. Don't forget in the app that we ask you to rate our sessions, give us feedback. Next up is a networking break, and then we have another executive panel keynote in the main area. Thank you, Jovio and LHH.
Mike, though, but yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Sometimes I wonder if it will ever end. You get so mad at me when I go out with my friends. Sometimes you're crazy, then you wonder why. I'm such a baby, yeah, the dolphins make me cry. But there's nothing I can do. I only wanna be with you. You can call me a fool. I only wanna be with you. Yeah, I'm tangled up in blue. I only wanna be with you. 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 Hope when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you built a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. that you spend your days, but they all add up. And when that sun goes down, hope you raise your cup. Oh, I wish that I could witness all your joy and all your pain, but until my moment comes, I'll say I did it all. I did it all. I owned every second that this world could give. I saw so many places, the things that I did. And with every broken bone, I swear I lived. I swear I lived. Every broken bone, I swear